Welcome. So great to have you here. I could not be more excited to be talking money with my favorite money person, Sarah McCullough from WD Development, my personal financial planner who helped me through an incredibly vulnerable time through my separation and divorce, and still helps me to this day, 6 years later, to really be able to have a sightline for where I want to be as a financially independent person as I look forward to my future successes. So I am forever indebted and most grateful to you, Sarah. I'm so glad that you're on my financial team. It takes a village. It takes a team.
It does.
And, in terms of, your credentials and just, sheer smarts and talents, to me, it's incredibly important that I have talented team members, right? And so I really appreciate that about you. And I just must say too, before we get into it, that, as a certified financial planner, and that you have no conflict or interest to be selling product, you are here to really advise and support me through my financial success, and do work with me and the rest of my team, right, which we'll get into a little bit further. And that you are certified to work globally, right, and have a specialization in separation and divorce. So for many of us, that's where it starts when we're not sure how to go from married or coupled to uncoupled and financially independent. So I love it. And really, this is really what we want to talk about today, was the ultimate benefit of a financial team and what that looks like.
Okay. And so I think you're right. Across the board, so about 30 to 50% of my work in a year is with families who are separating and divorcing. The rest of my practice, I just call them my non-separation families. And so it's across all of my clients. One of the most common questions I have is really related to money in, money out, right? I know how much I make, and I seem to run out of money every month, or we feel tight, or one of the most common questions is, well, how do I buy a car? Right? I know I need a new car. I can feel that coming up. I don't know where to take the money from. And so I don't know why we still consider those basic questions, or we feel like everybody else knows how to do this and we don't, because that's not the reality. So I think when we look at what do we understand about our money, what do we know in this time of separation, to me, it's really important that you do understand your situation, like really understand your situation, so that you can make good choices going forward. Because there are opportunities coming out of this that you didn't have before. So I think that idea of having a team, because what I do is different from what an accountant does, is slightly different from what a business valuator does. So it's all necessary information, but really my role is going to anchor, these are your numbers. This is what you said you wanted to do, and here's how they fit together. And here are the choices that are going to get you what you want. Here's how to use your money to support the goals that you have. Money on its own is not that fascinating. It's really not. I'm quite confident that, but we use the words that we're familiar with, right? So we use words like, a lot of times my clients say, I want to be tax efficient. No, you don't. On your deathbed, you're not going to say, I'm so glad I was tax efficient. What you mean, like that's part of the sentence, right? Okay, so we can be really tax efficient for you. We've saved you all this money in tax, so now it's in your bank account instead of going to CRA. What do you want to do with the money? That's the real thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's what you want.
That's right.
I want to have more money so that I can help my kids, or I can start a business, or, whatever it is you want to do. So I think sometimes we get stuck in a conversation, but if you say to your accountant, I want to be tax efficient, they've got a bunch of ideas for you to do that. They just aren't going to have the full conversation with you. Right. And going the other way. So I'm going to have that conversation with you. I am not going to file your taxes for you, nor do you want me to. Right. So it's that idea of, often we need different specialists at different times. And then there are sometimes we really need them to really be all together. Right. And I think separation is one of those times. One of my families right now, they are separating and they need to transition a family business.
Right.
And so I think the accountant's first reaction was to the parents, go clean up your separation, then we'll do the business transition. And then the child taking over the business needs a marriage contract because she has a significant other. And so he wanted to do them one at a time and almost kind of separate them into their own boxes. And I'm saying, listen, that's not going to work because we're not transferring this business at the value that exists on paper. We're transferring it differently because the parents really want this business to stay in the family. And so we're having all three conversations at the same time, which is much more difficult for the advisors in some ways, but that really is where the clients live, right? When you think about it, you don't separate those things into separate boxes. They're all connected.
Yeah.
And so that's where having a team really helps you understand your own situation, right? So for the parents, they can see the value on paper.
Mm-hmm.
They've had the business valued. That didn't help them because their goal is still, but we want this child to be able to take it over. And we want to know that we're okay. The parents are also right at retirement age, right? So they didn't have a retirement plan even when they were together.
Yeah.
So now they're trying to say, okay, our first goal is that this business passes. Our second goal is that we're actually each financially independent. And dad is leaving Canada for another country,
Mm-hmm.
right? So his costs there versus her costs here. So they need to know those numbers, right? And so that's not, we need accounting in all of these things, but it's not going to fully answer their questions.
Right.
And so when the accountant and I met with the clients together, I was able to say, this is the amount that each parent needs today to come out of the business. And he can say, the business can do that, right? The business can take on that debt. And then I talked to the child taking over the business and her fiance in the afternoon about, okay, here's your ballpark debt.
Right.
What do you two need now? Talk to me about your plans. So I can't do, and in that meeting with myself and the accountant, we also had the tax specialist from another province on Zoom. Right. So she was weighing in as well. So none of us alone. And if we send the client kind of pinballing between us and have separate conversations, it doesn't work as well.
Is that like the telephone game?
It is like the telephone game,
Yeah.
right? Because I promise you, some of my clients, after doing a plan with me, have gone to their accountant and said, Sarah says, I should do this. And the accountant's gone, well, Sarah's an idiot.
Right.
Right.
But they just don't understand, because we were talking before, it's such an art and a science to all of this, right?
Yes.
And yes, what might make the most sense on paper ultimately doesn't make the most sense for what people's goals
because
are. And
we're going to
make concessions.
Your money's going this way and your goals are going this way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, Sarah, and I'm sure you hear this often. When I was going through my separation and divorce, and was a big fan to have every person of my financial team together and talking to one another and acting on my behalf, and we had communications guidelines in terms of, please feel free to speak on my behalf.
Yes.
Independently and without me, in order to, right? Because my time is valuable. So please work this out and bring me a proposal that works on all these fronts.
Right.
And knowing that we're the client and we can ask for these things. We can ask for a meeting with all of the players together. And how much it really helps to have someone like yourself in my situation, where I didn't understand the vernacular or the nomenclature and wasn't comfortable, in these types of financial spheres, for you to be able to break that down in real time with people that may not be able to break it down as easily because they have a real subject matter expertise, like tax efficiency, for example. Right. And let's keep everybody in their zone of genius. So I love what you're saying. We wouldn't build a house without putting all of the trades in the room together to review the drawings, right? So why would we do differently for our financial plan, which is our life? It
is, but we are very, I think we do that for a number of reasons. I think sometimes we're not clear on what financial planning can be. So I think that's the first thing is as clients, we're not really clear on what's possible there. I think partly because of how we use the term in Canada, how we've structured the financial industry in Canada and the wealth management industry. And I think we've really done ourselves and our clients a disservice sometimes. So sometimes we don't know that a financial plan really should be based around your goals. It's not based around mutual funds or stocks or bonds or however much you have to invest. It really ideally is based on your goals and looking at what you have and what you want, and how, again, do we use that to support what you want? It should not be the most fascinating thing in the conversation.
Yeah. And using and deploying that team as you're ready. I mean,
Yes.
with separation and divorce, you might only be able to handle so much as it relates to getting life set up for today and,
Yes.
the short and medium term. And then we can layer on, in our case, we have discussed things like estate planning, wills. So there's, and then financial investing, like you said,
Yes.
lending, right? So there's sort of these, right? The financial team hopefully is something that grows with you
Yes.
as you're ready and able to take on more.
And you're right. I think, when you and I first started working together, absolutely, we spent more time on the things that were so immediate for you.
Mm-hmm.
But we did that after I had looked at the longer term. We had talked about it. Did I need you to remember the whole thing? No. Did I think that was going to be the last long-term plan I ever did for you? No. But we need to have some sense. And that wasn't because you were separating, right? That was because statistically humans can predict about 3 years out. That's it. Right. So for all of my clients, we do the longer term projection, but then the reason that I work with clients for a number of years is because things change. Right. And because we don't always know. And not even, when I say that, not even, well, I didn't see the separation coming. Of course you didn't. But even for my clients whose relationship status hasn't changed, mm-hmm. our goals change.
That's right.
What we thought we wanted, maybe we don't, or maybe we have more room financially than we ever thought we would. So now we're making other choices. Like, we all shift, and that's okay. And I think your plan really, my goal as an advisor, I need to keep up with that.
Yes.
Right.
And so, let's face it, change from 9/11 to a pandemic, to the incredible inflation we're dealing with. And I mean, change is inevitable, right? Yes. And so I think so valuable. And I just love this perspective, because in Unwife, we are really talking about not needing to be the expert. I remember when I was so emotionally provoked in the beginning, and I went right away to shame on me, blame, guilt, that I didn't have control over my finances and that I didn't have the answers to these questions. Right. And my first was, I need to learn all of these details. And I remember working with my therapist, and she said, no, it's important to have an understanding, and it's important to enlist and have a team who can help you to have this understanding to make great decisions. And we often talk about that in Unwife. We don't have to know everything. Of course we don't. And especially when we're vulnerable and in crisis. This is why we enlist the services of, a financial team to help us to work through this program. Yeah. And I love what you said about, buying a car. I remember to this day buying my first car. Yeah. At my late 30s. I'd always done it with my husband. Right. I would and that feeling of empowerment, because you and I had run those numbers, and I knew my bottom line on my monthly, on my annual, what was outgo and what needed to be income. And I remember I said to the car dealership guy, the salesman, I was on the phone, and I said, okay, let me get back to you. And so I hung up the phone, and then I asked myself, it was all in line with my budget. I felt like I had,
Right.
scored a great deal. I negotiated really well because I was informed, I was prepared, it was great. I was feeling good. Why did I have to get back to him? And then because I'm used to going home
Right.
and consulting with, another person and then coming back and, and similar conversations where a financial person will say to you or a salesperson, is there another decision maker that has to, weigh in on this? The empowerment to be able to say, no, there is not.
Yes.
I'm capable to make this decision, and that I was prepared enough and in the know enough. I didn't have to reach out to go crunch numbers to be able to say, I can make this decision right now.
Right.
Full peace of mind.
Yes.
So I just, it's an example, but to have a financial team is empowerment. It's empowering. Yes. It's not just about financial independence. It is truly about self-worth and power and confidence.
It is. And for me, when I'm looking at how do I best advise a client, there are often times where, here's what I want for the long term, but year to year taxes matter, right? And so anytime I'm proposing a change to a client's situation that has tax implications, ideally, I want to talk to the accountant with the client, because I'm saying, I love this and this meets the client's goals, but you tell me year to year, is there a better way to do this? Because in the software, I made it look like this and I moved this from here to here, but you tell me what it looks like, right? So I think having those two different opinions really can get the client to the ideal solution, and it prevents the client getting conflicting advice when you keep your advisors separate.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is also a real risk in how, again, we've built wealth management in Canada. This idea of keeping people separate isn't ideal for the client. There's one of you. And so to not have your advisors talk, I think really leaves us open to inadvertently somebody's undone something.
Yes.
I remember bringing up with a client over and over and over again, I really don't like how you've done the beneficiary on your life insurance policy, because I've seen your will and it's not going to give you the outcome you want.
Right.
And she would just say, the lawyer said it has to be that way. I hear you, but I know for sure your estate lawyer does not understand your full financial picture, because it had changed a lot in a fairly short time period. And so I'm trying to say, can we please look at this again, because it's not going to go the way you want.
Or the value of you working together.
Yes.
And I will say the right team,
yes.
Whenever I say to you or to the accountant or lending or my lawyer, hey, and I make introduction, it's like a sigh.
It is.
Because they're just like, oh, thank goodness. This is not going to be undue work, undue time, revisiting, relearning, right? All the wasted effort when we can just speak to the people that know how to get on the same page quickly.
Right. And
I
so
love that.
When you talk about terminology, when I'm talking to your accountant, can we shorthand a few things? We can. Do you need to be there to hear it? No. Right? It would be like me listening to my doctor speak to the drug rep that makes my migraine medication. Do I need to? No, I do not. I just need to know that this is the best meds for me based on my situation. I don't need to hear that conversation. But ultimately, I need the outcome.
Yes.
I need the outcome. And so I think that's where having that team is important. Each of your advisors is going to see a slightly different risk. Each of your advisors is going to see a slightly different opportunity. And I think there's really some exciting things that can happen in there as well.
I agree.
And so I think sometimes we narrow our view when we don't have to.
Yeah.
I think we often do that.
And the power of positive or powerful questions, right? Yes. To just have these brilliant players together and to just be able to ask questions and see. It's like climbing a ladder, right?
Yeah.
With the right team, they're just, oh, and we'll, do this and move this. And as a client, it's a beautiful experience because you're just seeing the magic of your life unfold before your eyes. Where you're like, oh, this is possible. We can make this happen. But
Yes.
I couldn't actually express or communicate that effectively one by one.
No.
Right.
No,
and
you
so
can't.
the benefits of that team is so incredibly important. And, we don't have to know it all. We don't have to go it alone. And I think with my clients who are women, asking for help.
Yes.
Asking for help and not just asking for the help, but hiring a team for fit, right? That are of your values, that are in alignment with your goals. And
Absolutely.
that, and do not make you feel dumb, silly, stupid, never undermined, the amount of stupid questions I've asked, as you know, Sarah, and every time it's received without judgment. This is a safe place to get to a comfortable decision for yourself, not just comfortable, but an empowered decision for yourself. So I love this conversation because I think when you surround yourself with the right players, it just elevates your whole entire just personal power, right? In life. It's like that energy. You can't solve a problem from the same energy. You have to bring it up here, and then the universe starts showing up, and when we really start getting into life.
We do. And I think that example that you talked about earlier about buying your car once you were on your own, I love that you felt good about doing it, right? That is the point of planning, is that I want you to know what's possible. And I don't want you burning energy, staying awake at night, worrying about, well, if I buy the car today, can I do this tomorrow? And well, did I spend too much on the car? I don't want that. That doesn't benefit anybody.
So true. In fact, it actually gave me, when we've talked about Heston in terms of like, spending money on ourselves when it's, mindful and it's of good sound practice and makes sense, that I would have maybe gone to like the just beater of a car.
Right.
Was, and the whole experience would have been, the whole way through, it wouldn't have mattered whether it was a cheap car or an expensive car, but just because I didn't have the sight line, it would have been fraught with paranoia and discontent and lack. And in this case, it was like, not only am I going to go out and buy this car, I'm going to get the car one level up. And I feel really great about it because I know it is within the budget I have allotted for myself. And so great. Which newsflash, I forgot about the aftermarket snow tires for all of us living in snowy places. Almost nailed it, but it's close.
But next car, you're gonna know.
I'm gonna know. But even that little extra bit of expense, I knew where my back pocket money was. I knew where that was coming out of. So that again, it wasn't sheer panic, get rid of the car, get rid of the car, get rid of the car. It was just, okay, this expense was a little bit higher than we thought, but that's okay, because we've built in contingency plans.
Exactly. And I think, again, that's important to know kind of where you are. And sometimes our numerical reality is there are things that we really want to do that we can't do right now. Or if we do them, we're going to be financially unstable. So we kind of have to make choices in there. But I think just the relief that comes with knowing this is where I am and making choices from there is very different than not knowing and spending anyway, because the reality is we all have to spend. You can tighten up, you can have, I was talking to one of my clients, they did a family no spending month in January last year. It didn't solve their problem. They still don't know how much they can afford month to month, right? So
it's, as you say, it's like the diet mindset. Budgeting and diets, right?
Yes, both of them are. As soon as I say those words, we kind of go, oh God, right? It needs to be smaller, then it needs to be smaller. No, you need to know where you can make choices and where you've already made choices.
Right.
One of my clients in particular, they kept feeling like they were running out of money. And he's saying, I make good money. It's really frustrating. Yeah. And so when I broke out their spending, a lot of their costs were what I call fixed costs. So things you've already committed to, right? If you've got a mortgage or you pay rent, you've already spent that money. You can't then decide to spend it on going out for dinner. So their fixed costs were very high, about 88% of their income. So it didn't leave a lot for groceries, clothes. As soon as I showed that to them, it solved the feeling of why do we feel like we have no money, right? Both their kids were preteens. There were activities all over the place. They had a mortgage on their cottage, which they loved going to the cottage. So as soon as I said, look, this is how much money you've already spent, and this is the amount that is left to make decisions on. And 6 months later, because I was thinking they were going to need more income. And 6 months later, when I met with them, I said, how's it going? They were like, oh, it's been so great. It's so relaxing now. So for them, it was just knowing,
Right.
like just pulling out, you've already made these choices.
Right.
That money's gone. This is the money you can make choices on.
Right.
That solved so much for them.
Yeah. I love this, Sarah, and I just so appreciate you coming here today to shed perspective on this, because I will tell you, having gone through, I didn't know where to start, right? I went to the bank, and is this where the financial planning and advising happens from? I went to financial investors. Is this where the, financial, I have an incredible thing. All I want is to have a sight line. Right. And so it wasn't easy to find a human who was able to do exactly what we're talking about. So what you do and what you offer into the world is an incredible service.
Thank you.
And an incredible, just empowering place for people, because let's face it, financial stress is one of the biggest in families.
It is.
And whether you're together or apart,
yes,
co-parenting or not, modeling financial success, but not only that, to not have that stress in the home is so meaningful. So this is life-changing. And so I hope out of our conversation, if for nothing else, that, people are really inspired to, find someone like yourself who can work with them and their goals to feel this peace of mind and empowerment.
I agree. It's so important.
Thank you. Thank you. Where can we find you, Sarah?
So if you want to find me, easiest way to get a hold of me is email, which is sarah@wddevelopment.ca. Sarah is just SARA. There's no H. You can also book with me directly on my website at wddevelopment.ca. I do an introductory call. To me, it's so important to make sure that there's a good fit between what I do and what you're looking for. And then you can find me on LinkedIn under my name. You can find me on Instagram at WD_development.
That's awesome. And for more of this Lemonade Life and Unwife goodness, you can find me at Lemonade Life Coach on Instagram, in the Lemonade Life community on Facebook, and on email, connect@lemonadelife.ca. I love to be in conversation. So please, and I know Sarah does too. So please do not hesitate to reach out. As we have already said, no topic is too small or too silly. We love to support wherever we can and are available to you. So thank you for being here with us today. Thanks, Sarah. We'll talk soon.